In March of 1961, President Kennedy issued Executive Order 10925. That was the first executive order that used the term affirmative action, and it required contractors not only not to discriminate, as had been the case of prior orders, but also required government contractors to take affirmative action to assure that all of their personnel practices did not have any remaining vestiges of past discrimination. President Johnson took the executive order program out of the immediate office of the president and institutionalized it in the Department of Labor.
This Civil Rights Act is a challenge to all of us to go to work in our communities and our states, in our homes and in our hearts, to eliminate the last vestiges of injustice in our beloved country.
Whereas affirmative action was an important concept, and over the years would grow and become an important ingredient to our program, in the 1960s, discrimination was so blatant and insidious that most of the concerns of the President's Committee on Equal Employment Opportunity and the concerns in the early years of the OFCC really addressed the discrimination issue more than just affirmative action.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia.
Affirmative action has been justified on many grounds. There are essentially two principal theories. One is that affirmative action is a remedy for past discrimination. And that is the theory that probably has the most backing in current Supreme Court doctrine. Another theory is that affirmative action is justified as a means of shaping the sort of society that we want. We want a society where no group, no identifiable group of people forms a subordinate class in the society. Therefore, we have to do all sorts of things to integrate the society at every level.
When the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, OFCCP, came into existence in 1965, conditions for minorities and women in the workplace were not good. On average, they were paid the lowest salaries and had little opportunity for advancement into management or executive levels.
The problem wasn't confined just to the South. In northern steel mills, as an example, the discriminatory assignment of minorities and others was as complete as it was in those southern paper mills. In those steel mills, for instance, blacks were generally assigned to the hot end of the mill, to the coal and coke ovens, to the blast furnaces, and whites were assigned to the rolling mill, to the tin mill, and to other places where the heat was not so intense. And furthermore, generally, white employees progressed faster. A colleague and I visited a contractor in the South, and in visiting the plant, we found a sign on his front gate that read, "No colored." My colleague and I went in to talk to the plant manager and told him that President Kennedy had this executive order that required government contractors to take affirmative action. And we really didn't think it was appropriate under the circumstances for him to have that sign on his front gate. After some debate, the plant manager finally agreed that he would take down his sign. My colleague and I left the plant saying, there's a government contractor finally taking some affirmative action.
The 1970s would see a record of accomplishments for affirmative action. Section 503 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 called for affirmative action in the employment of handicapped individuals. Section 2012 of the Vietnam-era Veterans Readjustment Assistance Act of 1974 required affirmative action for disabled veterans and veterans of the Vietnam War. In April 1974, 9 of the nation's largest steel companies, producing 73% of the nation's steel, signed agreements with the government to expand opportunities for minorities and women. Back pay totaling $30.9 million was distributed to about 34,000 minority male employees and 5,600 women in production and maintenance jobs. The telephone company agreed to pay back millions of dollars to women and minority employees as compensation for past discriminatory hiring and promotion practices. They also agreed to set percentage goals for future employment. Women in banking and communications fields were confined to clerical and teller positions. Regardless of education, they rarely became managers or executives. In the 1980s, banks across the country, bowing to pressure from OFCCP, have adopted affirmative action programs for training and recruitment to increase the number of women and minorities in management and upper-level positions.
It is no longer a matter of debate whether or not a major contractor should have an affirmative action plan. They all know they should. It is good business practice. It has become as part of the institution as much as making a profit or considering quality control or improving sales levels. It has become a part of the corporate character.
The Supreme Court guidelines make clear that when you engage in affirmative action, an affirmative action effort, you have to recognize the rights of people who are not the subject of the affirmative action effort by ensuring that the people who get selected through the affirmative action process have solid credentials and solid qualifications to get the job in the first place, by requiring that there be a real problem you're trying to fix before you engage in affirmative action, so you're not just mindlessly hiring by the numbers.
I think that you can have affirmative action without a rigid specification of places. In fact, most voluntary affirmative action plans are not quotas in that sense. Most voluntary affirmative action plans mean essentially that a governmental agency or a corporation will make a good faith effort to try to find blacks or women or some other historically underrepresented group, to find from the ranks of such groups people who can perform a certain job.
It will become, and has become already, the good business thing to do. The models that we use for affirmative action in terms of recruitment, hiring, the requirements that we place upon contractors to do affirmative action are not only going to be useful in terms of their federal government compliance, it will be useful in terms of their ability to attract the best qualified candidates and to really be competitive and productive.
One company, which has been visited by both Presidents Carter and Reagan, located its workplace in the heart of the community where its workforce lives. They've also developed programs which recognize the challenges of managing a diverse workforce.
Digital is a producer, manufacturer of computers. We're worldwide. We have about 118,000 employees. We're the second largest computer company in the world. When affirmative action started in this company, we said we wanted to be the best at it because it fit what we stood for. A company that's going to succeed, we believe, has to have every one of its employees feeling empowered, feeling vested, feeling like it is their company.
Other companies could benefit from it, and in a sense we'd be sorry if they did, because we'd lose our competitive edge. But certainly, as I think about the work in its purest sense about what we're about, that other companies surely can benefit from it, and many of them are going down the same path they're beginning to.
It is an ongoing challenge to try to think about how you really do take in consideration that people are different. They're different in how they think. They're different in terms of different cultural backgrounds, different economic situations that people live in. So it's like, as a manager, just even thinking of myself, anytime I sit down with any person, in my case, perhaps you just say with a male subordinate, I have to really think a lot of times, now where's this person coming from? And what is his framework and how he thinks about how we should get some things done.
Valuing difference at Digital is our unique approach to how we create an environment within the company for everyone to be successful. It really grew out of our EEO and affirmative action work within the company, and it's really based on the notion that each one of us brings something to the table. Each one of us, because of our difference, adds some value to a process or to a procedure or to the way the company is run.
The Roxbury plant was established as a part of the federal government's urban renewal program with President Carter, and it was also in cooperation with the state of Massachusetts and Digital Equipment Corporation. It was a three-pronged effort in terms of Digital making a commitment to the inner city, the federal and the state and the city governments committing to do some urban type development within the city, and we had committed to establish a facility there that was viable and employ people from the local area.
We are a part of the community. Our people live there and they work there, and we gain from the community, and we have to give back to the community.
We are in the business of improving ourselves all the time. It can be in the business of managing our people. It is also in the business of building and designing computers. Affirmative action is part of our business. So if we want to improve the way we manage ourselves, we ought to look at ourselves constantly.
We happen to be on the front end of that demographic change. By being in an urban center, we already see the population becoming that much more diverse. In this plant, we have a significant goal to maintain the diversification of our population that we have today. Right now, 60% of this plant is made up of people of ethnic difference. I believe everyone should have a right to maximize their skills to their total capability.
Hello, my name is Ann Blackwell.
My name is Sumira.
Affirmative action on the grassroots level is implemented by agents of OFCCP who speak directly to both management and workers.
What job did you start with?
I started in assembly.
In assembly?
Assembly, yeah.
Did you get training to get to the position that you have now?
Yeah, I did a lot of training.
A lot of training. What position do you have now?
Just fill the keyboards.
Do you feel that the company offers good opportunities for women for advancement?
A lot of.
My name is Rosa Cepeda. I work here as a manufacturer one. I work in the automated department, and what we do here is we build the LK201 keyboard. We do every step here. Practically everyone within the team is trained to do each operation from basic all the way to final assembly, which is what I'm doing now. Final assembly, what we do is after the boards come off sublimation, we put on the tops and bottoms and have a complete product. Digital is a very good company to work for. They have many opportunities for growing within the company, and they are more than willing to train you with many different things, whatever it is that you're willing to learn, as long as it will help with the type of career that you're looking for.
My name is Han Bang Lee. I'm from Vietnam. I work here 1 year and 2 months, and I would like to work here because digital give me study English second language, and I like to training program. Sometimes give me training another job.
Welcome to the English as a Second Language ESL class at Digital. Today we're going to have a lesson about picking up the phone and taking a message. If you walk into your supervisor's office and you're looking for your supervisor, but the phone is ringing, what would you do?
I will pick up the phone and say, "Hello, digital equipment, may I help you?"
Essentially, what we're trying to do here at Digital is to look at a total dependent care strategy that encompasses both elderly care as well as child care. And the way that it's related to affirmative action has to do with the population, particularly the diversity in the population. It can be both the younger couples that you have who are childbearing age, or it could be on the other end of the spectrum where you have employees who have older parents, and they have to deal with that.
The workforce of 2000 will be significantly different than it is today. For example, 85% of the new entrants into the workforce by year 2000 will be composed of women, blacks, Hispanics, Asians, and immigrants. In fact, 2/3 of the new job entrants will be women, and 61% of the women of working age by year 2000 will be doing just that, working. That is very different than what exists today, where approximately 50% of the new entrants into the workforce are majority males. So the composition of the workforce will change significantly.
On the other side of the country, another company turns their attention toward the challenge of upward mobility.
The challenge now is to penetrate the upper levels of management. We have a good representation at the first and second level of management with our minorities and females, but the executive ranks are not well populated. Now, part of that is our culture. We promote from within. It takes many years to reach those kinds of levels in the Boeing company. So just the natural progression of time will take care of some of that problem. But we think we can do more, and our CEO is committed to doing more. And we're starting an aggressive program for identifying high potential females and minorities early in their career and putting together the developmental opportunities that they need so that we can accelerate the upward mobility.
I told my grandmother when I was 3 years old I was going to fly large airplanes for a living. And thank goodness for my grandmother, she didn't think that was odd at the time at all. This is the kind of job any pilot would give their eye teeth for. So when any new person is hired in the job, they're really looked over and put through about every possible test that you can be put through. And there were some times it was very difficult because not with the pilots, but with some of the people on the periphery, it was made pretty obvious that I wasn't particularly welcome. But on the other hand, I didn't care. I felt like I had worked very hard to get this job and I'd been given an opportunity and I was going to go for it. There were some people who said that it was reverse discrimination, and that was very difficult for me because I was raised to be very independent, and for someone to have, to say that to you, that you got a job just because you were female, was very hard to swallow. But my vice president told me in the interview, he said, there are going to be people who say that, are you tough enough to take it? And I had told him I was, so I had to stick to my promise.
Yes, I've spent some years now trying to bring women into responsible jobs and minorities, and not just get them in the workforce, but hopefully to get them into positions of responsibility and higher management wherever we can. In Miss Darcy's case, I knew that she was a good employee and had a good work record. She was a graduate engineer. She was a very active private pilot. And although I could have found men with military backgrounds and perhaps more flying hours, she did meet the qualifications I needed, and I found that you have to take affirmative action sometimes to get these things done. So I chose to bring her in, and she's been very successful. You have to go looking for them. They don't just walk into your office all armed with MBAs and PhDs. You have to look for these candidates wherever you can find them, and you have to put a little extra effort into it to find them.
When I was hired in the company, I was challenged, first of all, to come in and do what I was told, obviously. The expectations of the company demands that, that you're given a job, you're supposed to complete that job. The investment that the company makes in me and any other minority or female is that we will give you the proper tools to accomplish a job for us, and to the extent that you do that, you will be rewarded. And again, in the last 5 years, I've made great strides that have promoted me into the middle management category, and it's simply because the commitment the company has afforded me, and their commitment to the affirmative action plan that's in place here at Boeing.
I began working at Boeing in November of 1980. In March as a technical aide, and was promoted to quality control programmer. In March of '84, I lost my eyesight due to diabetes and didn't know at that time whether I would be able to return to work. And talking to some of the state counselors, they said there were talking terminals available and that I may be able to. They talked to the people at Boeing, and we began dialogue, and I was able to return to work in the fall of '84 with a talking terminal, and to the same job I had before, which made it somewhat less stressful because I knew basically what I was supposed to do. I just had to learn a new way to do it. I still wasn't quite sure whether I was going to be able to do it, but on the first day back, I found a mistake in a program within about 5 minutes after I was handed the assignment. That was a good feeling.
Handicap placement works best if it's done on a case-by-case basis. The first step is finding individuals who have qualifications that match our skill needs. And if we can find a person who has the qualifications who also happens to be disabled, then we will take a look at the position in question and all of the skill requirements that it entails, as well as the physical requirements or what have you. And we look at the disabled person and we say, what is this person capable of, both with skill and with their disability? They will have certain limitations that will need to be addressed. And to address those successfully through the reasonable accommodation process, we found is supported tremendously by the network of contacts that we've developed in the community.
The way I recruit Hispanics for Boeing is my association through the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. I touch base with the students' chapters and student leaders at the different colleges that I visit, and I'm also known at the professional level because I attend national conferences and national meetings. So all of that gives Boeing familiarity, or name familiarity, to Hispanics.
We're going to have a larger numbers of minorities and women within the workforce. And it's because of the fact that they're the ones who are out there now. The numbers are increasing. We have to make sure that we're going to have the kind of environment here within the Boeing company that's going to make them, minorities and women, do the job that's necessary for us to continue to be the top aerospace company in the world.
I came into the apprenticeship program at the Boeing Company on July 20th, 1987 as a machinist apprentice, and I've had the pleasure of working on different machines like the lathes and the milling machines, telematic, and I've been into the drill area, and I go to school 160 hours a year. So I have a pretty busy schedule. Some of the old guys enjoy letting the younger ones know, or other apprentices know, that who was putting out parts, machine parts, and during World War II, while the guys were overseas fighting, somebody was putting out those parts, and they were females. Many of them were females, so they're pretty tickled that qualified women are coming into the trade and into the machine shops. I really do feel strongly that the apprenticeship program is the only way for females to go as far as non-traditional jobs, whether it be machining or model making or tool and die trades.
I'm Lisa Vallejos, and I'm a toolroom clerk.
My name's Glory Pearl, and I'm a toolroom clerk.
I think it depends on an individual woman on how far they want to go up in the company and stuff. I'm sure if they strive for what they want, or want to go up as far as a male, then they could do it.
I feel too, though, women still have to prove themselves a little bit harder. I don't see very many women in management positions, and I know there's a lot of women out there that are a step or two away, and they have to push a little harder, I think.
They really have to prove themselves, a lot more than a male does.
Even those companies that do well may have problems in particular establishments. They may have problems with particular employment systems. They may have concerns that are continuing concerns. Those companies that are successful with respect to this program are also the companies that are more future-oriented and have what I believe to be more sensitive policies towards their employees to start with. So for those companies that do well, we applaud them. But even those companies that do well, we continue to monitor them because there are problems with particular establishments.
Well, if companies do not comply with their contractual obligations, obviously there are sanctions that can be imposed on companies that do not carry out those responsibilities. Initially, of course, they can be subject to a compliance agreement that will stipulate some rather serious steps that the company may have to take that normally they would not have to, but for failure to take make good faith efforts to achieve certain results, they may be imposed upon them. If there is, of course, an impasse with respect to their responsibilities, we also have the option of going to enforcement, which would involve litigation. That is, and ultimately, should they fail to make their case and we make ours, there's debarment. And that is the ultimate sanction, which means that they would not be able to do business with the federal government.
This is our new challenge.
to encourage government contractors to be creative, to undertake outreach programs, to undertake training programs, to assure that all of the gains made in the 60s and 70s and now in the 80s are not lost because the minorities and women cannot meet the challenges of the new kinds of jobs opening up as we turn into the new century.
As long as people need a toehold in the workforce, affirmative action needs to be there. As long as we need to have a more friendly workplace for people with small children, the need for affirmative action will be there. As long as we have these glass ceilings that prevent people from being promoted, the need will be there. What I do think, however, is that the changing workplace gives us an opportunity, if we can pick up the momentum of the changing workforce, to improve affirmative action so that we can finally bring equal opportunity to everybody.